is exactly what it was. Life is not meant to be heavy or confusing, but the sandbags make it so. Elizabeth, what do you think about this?
Let me, Arda, I'm going to cut you right off.
Yes, tell me, what's going on?
Let's begin. You know, this thing about sandbags. Let me read something that from your book on page 24. What are sandbags? What is a sandbag? Like, I had this great experience in Arizona with a hot air balloon, so I could totally relate to this. So it's something that weighs you down, right? So what you write is sandbags represent those aspects of your personality and psyche that you don't want to admit you have. What does that mean to you, Dionne? That those aspects of your personality that you don't want to admit you have.
It's so clear to me, by the way.
That's why you wrote the book.
That's a big question, but I think we can kind of distill it down to saying that there are certain fears that perhaps we're not wanting to face. And I think this law of life, you know, that life is not meant to be heavy, means that and that sandbags are preventing that, means that we kind of have to deal with these things before we can go up.
So let me chime in right there. So the sandbags, think about the sandbags and imagine sandbags and the hot air balloon, right? That's the cover of the book, hot air balloon and the sandbags. Thank you. What do the sandbags bring to the table when you think about the hot air balloon?
It brings you down.
Yeah, it's
It
heavy.
weighs you down, heavy.
Brings you down. So tell me more about the shadow, the things that we don't want to see. What are they?
There are fears, right?
Bingo, exactly. And we talk about in the industry, we talk about, like, not industry, in the world, we talk about vulnerabilities, right?
So can you somebody give me an example of what you're talking about, like our fears, like fear of the dark, or fear of, like, what are you talking about? Like
Fear of heights.
That's bringing me down? Yeah, keeping me down. But what is a fear? Like, give me an example, a real world example.
Well, I think fear, it's a good question. You know, fear of the dark, is that a fear? Well, it's not so personal. I would say the fears we're talking about, or the sandbags, are very personal. They're things that we feel maybe part of us kind of believes about ourselves. And so I would say maybe fear of failure. Something, maybe fear of not being worthy. Beth, are there any fears that you can think
I mean, I feel like the fear of the dark, maybe that's like a fear you know about, you're aware of. But we're talking about these fears that you're not necessarily aware of. And what's so important about those fears is they kind of hijack us, right? We don't even sometimes know that we have them. We just know that we're not comfortable, or we're having an emotional reaction, right?
So
that's like our, go ahead.
Fear of, like, not being seen or heard be one of these sandbags?
Absolutely. And it is hidden, like that's the sandbag shadow. I mean, Carl Jung talks about shadow, and that's actually, he coined the shadow word, something that is behind us, meaning we don't see it. So Beth, you put it so well. It just, the fear of darkness, you know it. You cannot, go into a dark room because the fears will come up. But when we have a fear of failure, we have fear of loneliness, we have fear of not good enough, we have fear of not seen, how do they show up and why they are buried? That's we can explore.
Yeah. And I think what you said there, Arda, I'm seeing something new. It's like, you've already kind of said this, but like, we don't see it. We're in it. Like when it happens, when we're in that place of fear, we don't see that we're there. And that's part of this work for me. Well,
how do you figure out what that discomfort is? Like, how how do you even start to even realize what those fears are, what those sandbags are?
I love what you said about the like fear of darkness. You started right there, fear of darkness, and it is so tangible, right? So and fear of heights is maybe another one, beautiful analogy or metaphor that we can compare. So think about that you have fear of heights, okay? So you are visiting Grand Canyon, and there is no chain, and you are getting closer and closer and closer and closer to the cliff, to the edge of the cliff. What would you be feeling?
Anxiety.
Yes. Where is that anxiety coming from? Anybody?
Well, the fear of heights.
But the fear of height comes from where? You are thinking that you're going to fall.
An experience?
Yeah, you're going to fall into the abyss and die. That's what I'm
Afraid of death.
Yes, that's basically what it is. But you haven't died yet, even you haven't fallen off yet. So that fear, that thought is in your mind. And as you get closer to the edge of the cliff, because you have fear of heights, it gets triggered.
Right.
And the emotional charge that you have tells you, do not get closer anymore because I cannot handle this. You can apply this to everywhere in your life. Whenever there's an emotional reaction, there is a fear behind it.
So can I pause this? Because it's like, well, hang on. We don't want to jump into the Grand Canyon, do we? So then what is this path all about? Are we doing something nuts? Where are we, these fears have a place. So I'm just wondering what you guys think, like, how does this apply to doing this? I'm not even sure how to formulate a question about this.
Maybe we should not talk about, I mean, we will talk about how to apply this, but I don't know if everybody's like on the same page here in this quadrant. So what do you think, Beth, in terms of, I think you were going to say something, that we will get Dionne, let's sort of application later, but how this concept of fear and emotion, I want to explore that a little bit more, if you guys agree.
Yeah, sure.
But Dionne, you're saying that in this sort of analogy where we're going down, it's like it feels like fear's protecting you. So you feel like the fear is kind of a good thing, but we're sort of saying we want to get rid of our fears because that's where we obtain our freedom.
Well, I think it brings up what is the relationship with fear, which maybe is too big of a direction to go, but I do think it, yeah.
I think that in this analogy, it's to get to a point where we can stand on the edge and feel comfortable and feel comfortable with death. We don't have that fear anymore. We feel comfortable that we're safe, we're secure, we're grounded, everything's okay. So we're not having that emotional reaction and that trigger for our fear of death. And so that's sort of the space maybe that we want to strive to live in.
And it's like, if we want to go into the Grand Canyon and walk down it, it's like, we don't want to have that fear of heights, making it so we can't even make that first step. And if we're colored in those emotions, I think that's
what's in the book. And Elizabeth, I want to actually hear more from you about this fear. Just in the book, I think what I tried to explore and I think you all appreciated that is that if you continue this fear of heights, it's just like my toes are going to the edge of the cliff, and then I'm even hanging, like my 10 toes are hanging on the edge, and I'm still not afraid because I could now emotionally get to a point, mentally get to a point where my fears are not affecting me. Like you said, anxiety, Elizabeth, that you don't have the anxiety anymore.
Right. And I think some of those fears, like a heist, if we're talking about that, it puts you back in your comfort zone. I got away from the edge because I'm so afraid. But then if you're able to stand there and conquer some of those fears, then you can see the beauty from a different perspective, right? You can see the beauty of your surroundings. So the fear is protective, but it kind of holds you back, right?
They are protective to keep you in your comfort zone.
That's right.
That's why it's just like, yeah.
When you're in your comfort zone, you can't live life to the fullest because you're in that zone where it's protected, right?
You can't fly. We want to fly.
You want to fly.
Yeah.
That's
and
right.
there's no ultimate happiness in the comfort zone. If anybody finds ultimate happiness, please call me. In the comfort zone.
So what's a comfort zone? Let's talk about comfort zones.
Okay, let's talk about the comfort zone.
Yeah, let's talk about comfort zones. Beth, what's the comfort zone for you?
A comfort zone. I think that's that place where you feel protected, and I think you know that you're in your comfort zone when you maybe you want to experience something, but something's preventing you from doing it. So you sort of, hold back a little bit. I don't know. That wasn't a great definition. I'm happy to hear if someone wants to add to it.
I mean, I think it's great what you said, because I think there's something, we always kind of want more from life. I mean, there's a striving or a desire, but there is also that piece that holds us back. And I think the comfort zone is kind of like, I'll know I'm in it when I'm attracting the same kind of people and relationships, or like the same kind of situations. And maybe I'm stuck. Arda was talking about emotions, like I'm stuck in that anxiety or these negative emotions, or like.
So isn't that interesting? Mm-hmm. Isn't that interesting that our comfort zone makes us react more? And therefore, we are not really as comfortable as we think we are in the comfort zone. Because we are trapped.
It's what you know. The comfort zone is the part that you know.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Exactly.
It's like, why would you'll stay in the cage that you know rather than.
It's so funny, Dionne, that you say that, because when I first met Arda, I read in this poem and I'm like, I live in a box. And not knowing at that time, I'm like, it's not a P.O. box, but it's a box. It's a square box and I'm living in there. And I want to get out, but I can't get out because the box is really, now I'm realizing it, was representative of my comfort zone. And little by little, every time you get out of the box, I'm like, yeah. And then now I'm able to reach out. I'm like, oh, there's like lots of stuff out there, I can reach out to other things and see the world from a different perspective than in my box, or making these little peepholes in my box so I can see out. I can actually get out of my box.
Some people actually relate to it more from that black and white movies into the what's the color?
Technicolor.
Technicolor, yes, thank you. I was going to say tricolor, but it's Technicolor, yes. Yes, exactly that. I mean, there is so much life out there. Dionne, I like what you said about we are thriving. We're trying to live life. And I don't know, what do you guys think about that? It's a natural urge to live life to its fullest, yet not many people are after that, or are they?
Such a good question. I just want to make sure that we're checking in with our listeners. Are we getting any?
Yeah, I'm
dialogue.
I think I'm looking at the chat. I think we have a couple people on. I'm not seeing any actual questions or responses. So
but we are live,
could
right?
be
we are on
user.
YouTube.
Yeah,
we are
live.
on YouTube right now. Thursdays at 5 p.m. Thursdays at 5 p.m. So we're going to be here. So hopefully there will be some questions. So yeah, maybe it was the maybe we don't need to go that direction either. I mean, we are exploring this concept, going back to the sandbags and the fear. So let's maybe ground on that topic a little bit more. So we listed the fears, and how do we deal with these fears?
Can we list
Maybe.
a couple more? I know we
Yeah,
talked
let's
about this
just-
last
yeah.
week, but just briefly for people who are listening, like what is a fear that I might have and that's holding me back? You know, you say that we don't even want to admit we have. So I don't even know what they are. So what are they?
Fear of being disliked.
Oh, yes. Number one, not loved, not being
Not
safe.
loved.
These are top. Everybody has them. Everybody.
Fear of failure.
Mm-hmm.
The fear of being abandoned.
My
Oh,
biggest
yeah.
one. Yeah, oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, yeah, now that you mentioned the fear of abandonment, I'm going to say just the runner-up to that is, or maybe the biggest one I have is the fear of not being recognized.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And the probably next to it right there is the fear of abandonment. Oh my God.
Right. Well, I'll add a little fear of unworthiness in there for the mix.
Thank you. Let's spice it up, these fears.
And
Yeah.
just the fear of not being enough for me. Anyway, not being enough for other people, for me, for just not being enough.
Right.
Fear of getting old, fear of
Oh gosh.
not fitting in. I think I
Did
said
you
that.
have to bring that up now?
Did you have to bring that up? You're all young.
Did you
and
have to bring
everything.
that up? I can't believe it. No,
Fear of being criticized.
I'm thinking about the ranking of my fears now.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's a lot.
Yes. So how do we know about these fears? Some of our listeners might be thinking, "Oh my God, so many fears. I don't know," and maybe they're all panicking now. Maybe we had two listeners on YouTube, and they're probably gone by now. We just like bombarded.
Or maybe they think we're just really afraid. Just for people who are just particularly afraid in life.
Yes, maybe. So like how, average person, which we are, how many fears do we have? Just kind of roughly. If we take the main ones, like not being safe, obviously very, very important. Not being loved and not being liked. So everybody has them. So let's take them out. So just individually, how many fears do we have? And how do we know what they are?
I mean, there's endless, but sorry, Beth, go ahead.
Okay, so you took out the top three. And so like, how many more do we have room
not
for?
good enough, not good enough. The one that you brought up, not worthy,
Right.
not seen.
I mean, I think in some sense, we probably have many, but at different degrees. I mean, it was,
Beautiful.
yeah.
But where do these fears come from? Are we just born with fears? Are we born with these fears? Like you're born and you're like, oh, I already don't feel like I'm enough. I don't think so, right?
I don't think so.
Where do they come from?
You're bringing a topic that we could have like 5 episodes. But the thing is like nature versus nurture. There is one element to it. I feel we have some tendencies, the way I see it, okay? And don't mind my just kind of going philosophical about this a little bit. So we have some kind of nature, and then we go into the nurture, which is the environment, and we start to develop through our tendencies these fears. So I feel that we have 3 to 5, maybe 5 to 7 major fears. And Beth said it so well, different degrees based on the nurture or environment that we grow up with, right?
Yeah. Elizabeth, one thing I'm learning, I have a daughter who is high on the anxiety scale. And I think in a lot of ways, she's sort of gotten me interested in coaching. But she, you know, she's just been a great sort of teacher for all this. And it's interesting because she has these fears, and sometimes she knows them and sometimes she doesn't. And today she goes, I just have all these emotions, like I don't know what to do with them. So that was sort of interesting. She'll grab on to lots of fears, lots of different places that don't even belong to her, right?
Oh yeah, I mean, there's an ancestral, there is environment, there is peers, there's
Whoa. Like, what do you mean ancestral fear? Your fear of your ancestors?
You are funny. So it's just like generational fears that are coming. So these
you
are
mean like
little,
that have been passed down over the ages? Like you go,
Like
superstitions?
superstitions?
bet you.
So like
Generational trauma,
oh,
Yeah.
that's
like
a
an
big
energetic blockage.
Yes.
That's passed.
like the grandfather did this to your father, and your father's doing this to you, and you pass it on without really realizing it.
Elizabeth, I know for a fact that my great grandfather, I should say, wrote a book and did not get published. He could not find a publisher, and it was a spiritual poetry.
Oh.
And I felt his not being recognized as a kind of like, almost, it turns this thing that I feel that not good enough. When that gets triggered, I feel this self-pity. And sometimes as I observe more and more of my feelings, and like, I go like, where is this coming from?
Mm-hmm.
I can't believe this. I turn into this worthless piece of whatever, and I'm kind of like, what is going on?
Yeah.
And I feel that there is some kind of influence. So some of our listeners may relate to this. They are anxious and they feel not good enough, and it is not always, oh, something happened and that somebody made you feel not good enough, or you'll get criticized and you go back to your childhood. Sometimes it comes with the life, with the energy. But again, we can explore that more often, more later. But yeah, there is some phenomena like that.
That's so interesting.
Right. And I feel like that's just flourishing in the field of like trauma work, of like understanding of epigenetics, and just like an energetic kind of imprint that's left. And there was also, I wanted to kind of anchor on something, because, you know, the law of life that we opened with, like that life is not supposed to be heavy, sandbags make it so. You know, we're revealing all these heavy fears that we can all carry. Like, are we just, what's the point of even looking at them? Like, are we just stuck? Like, is there a way out?
Hold on. This book is called The Art of Becoming Unstuck. So there must be a way to unstick ourselves.
Yeah.
Right?
So
like,
first of all,
yeah.
answer, maybe we should answer this. Do we want to enjoy the view of Grand Canyon?
I do.
Yes.
You guys?
100%.
Yeah.
100%, right? That is the state of becoming unstuck. Because if there is an anxiety, if there is a fear of height, you're not going to pay attention.
Arda, I want to enjoy the view from the edge, man. I don't want to.
There you go.
Enjoy it from my screensaver, right?
No holding back.
It doesn't
I
feel
want
the
to be on
same.
the edge of a cliff. I want to be rock climbing and then hanging over. Come on, Beth.
You're holding the guide book for that adventure in your hands. Exactly that. So exactly, because otherwise it's just, we're living in chains. We're living in chains. So how do we get out of it?
Yeah,
how do we break these chains?
What can we give listeners? Because we, you know, maybe they're starting to become aware of their fears, or at least they're coming, you know, like Beth had mentioned, this, like, your daughter coming with like, I'm having all these fears or all these anxiety. Like, what can we give someone who's experiencing anxiety right now to help them just a little bit?
Beautiful
with the
invitation.
Yeah.
Does anybody remember life skills assignment number 1? Actually,
I don't know if it was
2.
number 1, but I definitely in the beginning,
Yes.
there is an exercise to pause and to notice your emotions and just to write them down, and have a daily check-in, like even before you go to bed, like, okay, how am I feeling? What are my emotions right now? And it's a really interesting exercise because I think we're just used to just charging ahead through our life and not, not with purpose. I don't know. And then when you start to really tune into yourself, you're like, oh, I'm really feeling angry about what happened earlier today, or I'm really feeling whatever. And I encourage anybody who's listening to do this because it really is, can be a really eye-opening exercise.
That's an awesome
Pause and
recommendation.
observe. I think that's really, it sounds so simple, but to do it and to feel and to write it down is very powerful.
Maybe 2 ways. One is you can notice it in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
So whenever you have an emotional reaction, just bring it to your consciousness, because it's an unconscious, it's a subconscious emotional reaction coming from your fears. So the first thing is just like, oh, I'm angry. Oh my God, I'm angry. Oh, this anxiety is coming over me. Yes, it's okay to feel those because the fears are feeding those emotions. Hang on to those emotions and bring it to your consciousness and just say it internally or outwardly. Just say it. I am angry right now. I am anxious. That's a great exercise. So everybody can do that in the moment. And also, like Beth was saying, you can do it at the end of the day. We call it a daily review, and look back and see if you had any emotional reactions throughout the day. Pick one and sit with it. Observe that. What happened? How did you react to certain words, attitudes, behaviors from others or situations, right?
And I just want to underline, because this came to me when you're talking, cause and effect. The cause is the fear and the effect is the emotion.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's right.
Today, scientists or science world or psychology, they think the emotion is the effect. Sorry, emotion is the cause. It's the other way around. Emotion is the result. We call it the tip of the iceberg. The emotion is the result of your thoughts, which are result of your internal programming, which is built, either we were talking about the nature, okay, I'm feeling not good enough, or nurture because my dad made me feel not good enough. My mom criticized everything I said, everything I wore, everything I ate, and now I'm feeling not good enough. My dad never asked anything about my accomplishments, so I feel not recognized, right? I'm not blaming them, but I just, have my fears now. Thank you very much.
So you're saying,
Arda, you're not alone.
Yeah.
Not
Not alone.
So
We're
you
at
think-
about our 30-minute mark.
Oh my God.
I know. So, but my takeaway is going to be this iceberg analogy where my 7, 8, 10 repressed fears are at the bottom and my emotional reactions are going to be at the top, the part that we can see, right?
Exactly.
So,
beautiful. Well said.
Anybody else have a takeaway from today that you want to share?
I think it's just as simple as when you're approaching the Grand Canyon and that anxiety comes up, or whatever you want in life, feel whatever emotion is coming up and notice it. Pause, notice your emotions, just become aware of them.
And to follow up on that and how you were ending, Arda, pause, observe, and then give it a little more, like, where's that coming from? Like, what could be the cause of this? I mean, we didn't go into this a lot, but I think, where's this coming from? Why am I feeling like this? And sometimes it kind of gives you an idea why you're feeling like that, and the control, not control, but a way to deal with it. Understanding is the first thing, right? Realizing and then understanding.
Realizing and understanding and standing with it. So remember also what, to me, this Grand Canyon analogy came out of the blue, and just see how far you can go towards that edge and stay with it. Recognize, oh, I'm feeling anxious. Go a little bit, one more inch into the fear, into the emotion, into the situation, and learning to stand against those fears and emotions, and acknowledging, bringing to your consciousness, is a very, very big building block of what we are trying to share in our episodes.
Right. Who wants to give a preview into next week?
Well, I can.
Number 3.
So we're going to work on next week. What is it? Thursday at 5
Thursday.
p.m.
Is it 5 p.m.? Did you say Thursday, 5 p.m.?
I said
on
Thursday,
YouTube?
5 p.m.
Thursday,
Yes.
5
at Thursday. Okay. Well, then we've got that clear. So let's be clear what we're going to talk about, which is the law of life number 3, which is only those who have sandbags react emotionally.
Oh,
So stay tuned.
Okay.
I think we build the ground for that law of life today. Mm-hmm.
Great.
Thank you guys so much. This has been really
thank
nice.
you.
It's
Really,
been
I've enjoyed it.
incredible.
Thanks to all the listeners.
And thanks to our
Thank
listeners.
you, everyone. Thank you.
All right. See you next week.
All right.
See you.
Bye.
Bye.